G'day everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're going to be having a look at every single trade that has occurred over the 2021 AFL trade period. Now, I think by now we all know that it has been quite an underwhelming trade period, let's just say that. Not much happened at all on deadline day, and if you compare this one to last year, it was probably half as good, if not worse. Regardless, I'm going to be doing something similar to what I did last year, where I'll be sort of ranking every trade, but rather than just ranking them, I'm going to review the players a little bit more in a bit more detail than I did last year. We've got top 5 caliber, will make an immediate impact, makes the best 22, handy top-up player, and then obviously fringe player. So the first player we've got on the list, we've got Cerra. He's obviously one of the better young players in the comp, obviously, and he will become a really good player. But the thing is, I don't even know if it's a top 5 player at Carlton, because Carlton already have some stars. They've got the good players, they just don't seem to gel together. Like, they've got Walsh, Wiedering, Mackay, even Cripps at his best. I feel like if he's not a top 5 player, he'll become a top 5 player, and I don't think this is going to be filled up very much at all. Yeah, I mean, he's top 5 in the last 2, 3 are best and fairest, but let's just chuck him top 5. Regardless of that, if it's the case already, whether or not he'll become a top 5, yeah, it should be the case. He'll become a top 5 player, you would think, at the Blues. Next player, we've got Callum Coleman-Jones, who went to obviously North Melbourne from Richmond for a deal involving Robbie, Tarrant, and a couple of pick swaps. That's not a bad pickup for the Roos, considering that obviously for himself, Coleman-Jones wasn't able to get a real crack in the forward line with Riewoldt, Lynch. You know, he didn't have a great opportunity, but obviously, you know, at North, he should get more game time for sure. They obviously don't have as great of a list, and I don't really have a key forward other than Larky that I can think of, like a genuine key forward that can play well for them. I feel like Callum Coleman-Jones probably be their best 22, I reckon. If him and Larky, I don't know though, but I have a feeling that he's probably going to make it in their best 22, and he's a pretty good player for the Tigers, just not getting enough game time. And next up, we've got Darcy Fort, who was a former cat who's now a Lion, who's going to help obviously support Oscar McInerney in the ruck after Archie Smith's retirement. Yeah, he's the sort of player who the Lions definitely needed, especially considering that they don't have someone like an Archie Smith, and obviously Hipwood, he can become a forward type player. He can help in the forward line. Yeah, I feel like because he didn't really get much game time at the Cats, I feel like he's going to be a very handy player if a certain ruckman goes down or a forward for the Lions goes down, he can go in. But just feel like only 8 games for the Cats in that many seasons. I'm going to chuck him a handy top-up player, but I guess he could be someone like a Tom Hickey for the Swans. Next up, we've got George Hewett, who went from the Swans to the Blues. And obviously, as a midfielder for the Swans, a 100-game player, I should add. He's going to provide a lot of experience for the Blues, I reckon. Considering that a lot of the time, games are lost in the middle for the Blues. Countless amount of times I've seen games where Carlton are in the balance at around 3/4 time, and then the midfield, they just don't really click. They just sort of give up, and the other team just gets out of the middle, and they end up winning the game quite easily. Hewett's going to help sort of prevent that from happening, I feel like, because he's got the 100 games of experience. I don't know if he will make an immediate impact. I don't think he's that good. He's a pretty good player that will make their best 22, but I don't think he's like someone like a Cerra in terms of quality. I don't know. I feel like I'd chuck him above Coleman-Jones though. Next player we've got is Jayden Kelly, obviously traded from the Crows to the Bombers, and obviously I reckon he's got to be an instant inclusion towards their squad, considering he was, you know, playing every game at the Crows, even when they were good. Yeah, he's one of the better lockdown defenders, you could say. I can't see this as being a bad thing for the Bombers. I'll chuck him in, make an immediate impact. I reckon I do rate Jayden Kelly is a pretty good defender, so I feel like he'll do all right this year. I'll have a prediction he'll be very handy this year. Next player we've got is Jeremy Finlayson. Now, this is an interesting one. I don't know if he's going to make their immediate top 22. Like, when he was at the Giants, especially 2019, I think it was, he was definitely one of their better players, definitely making a spot in the side. So he's 196 centimeters, I'm pretty sure. So I'm not 100% sure why the Power picked up another key forward. Maybe they picked him up as a replacement for Peter Ladhams, considering he left, and he was sort of a backup ruckman. So obviously they have Dixon, Georgiades, and Marshall. So I don't really see where Finlayson plays a role in the forward line I don't know if they give him a chance of playing in the defence. I might just chuck him above Darcy Fort as a handy top-up player. Yes, he'll probably make their best 22 in round 1 or something like that. There'll be injuries, something will happen, but I don't think if every player is fit for the power that he makes in the top 22. I might be wrong, but that's just what I feel. And next up, we've got Jonathan Ceglar, who is a player that I've definitely heard about. He was at the Hawks for a while, actually. He's been there, I think, since 2014. So he's got experience. In fact, he's got 100 games of experience. I think I might be wrong there. Yeah, he's 30 years old, so he's not going to be anything long-term. But obviously, yeah, he'll provide the Cats with a bit more stocks in the ruck. So I don't know, we'll chuck him in handy. He's similar to a Darcy Fort for the Lions, really. And next up, we've got Jordan Clark, obviously being a top 15 pick. Anyways, he's definitely got some talent, and he wasn't really getting enough game time at the Cats because they've got obviously a great list. So he was getting played in position that he didn't want to, getting medical subs. Sort of was like, well, you know what, I'm going to go to my hometown in Perth, and obviously that is where when he went to the Dockers, I think he'll definitely make their best 22. He's obviously got a lot of speed. I've heard that he's going to be playing the defence. I don't really know exactly, but if he's going to be playing in the midfield, yeah, he's going to be a good replacement for Cerra. I could arguably chuck him in and make it a medium impact for the Dockers, providing they play him in the right position and he gets enough game time, because I actually rate him as a player. And next up, we've got Jordan Dawson. I don't feel like he should be the second best player coming out of an entire trade period. Regardless, yeah, Jordan Dawson, obviously a great player for the Swans. The last 3 years playing in the half-back line. Yeah, he was a great player. He's a great kick. He's definitely going to, I reckon, make an immediate impact. I don't reckon he's a top 5 quality player at the Crows. I know they don't have too many players, really, but when you think about it, but we'll chuck him around I reckon he's going to make a similar impact as a Jayden Kelly or someone like that. Now, next up, we've got Lewis Young, who was involved in a 3-way deal between the Dogs and I think the Eagles, so they could get Patrizki seat. And I think, he was a defender for the Dogs, but he wasn't really getting much game time, so I don't really see how Lewis Young is going to get a lot of game time at the Blues, considering that they have quite a decent defence. We'll chuck him around, handy top-up player. He hasn't really proven himself yet. He's a young player. He'll become better over time, and saying he stays at the Blues, he could become a really good defender. But I reckon at the moment he's going to struggle for a little bit of game time, so we'll chuck him and handy top-up. Next up, we've got Luke Dunstan. Now, Luke Dunstan's an interesting one because, he wasn't really getting a game at the Saints, so I don't know why you would think that someone like a Luke Dunstan's going to fit into a Melbourne side and get games, considering they won the flag. They've got probably the best midfield in the comp. He is a very good inside mid. He's a very good player getting the contested ball, and I know his possession is pretty poor, but, potentially that they could have him as a player who just gets the ball out, regardless of the possession. Maybe they just, have him there just so they can get inside 50s or something like that. So I feel like he's not going to be in their best 22. I think we all know that. But I don't think he's going to be a list clogger or anything like that. I reckon he'll get a decent amount of games next year. Next up, we've got Mabior Chol. Well, he's going to the Suns. The Suns don't have a lot really going on. So I feel like he's got to surely makes their best 22. He actually had a really good second half of the season for the Tigers, playing almost every game. That game against the Lions stands out, where he kicked the 4 goals. So I feel like he's got to make their best 22 as a hybrid ruck forward. He's obviously an athletic player, and he's going to provide some excitement for the Suns. Let's just say he does get it going, and I feel like he should make their best 22. But I guess let me know if you think someone else will take his spot or something like that. Anyways, next up we've got Max Lynch. He's just another one of those top-up ruckmen, along with a lot of other players. In fact, I reckon a third of the players in this trade period are top-up ruckmen, which is obviously makes sense. Rather, Hawks would like someone to support Ned Reeves after McAvoy retires, so he'll be a handy inclusion, but I don't feel like he's going to get too many games at all. Didn't get too many games with the Pies. Don't feel like early on in his stint at the Hawks he'll get a lot of games as well. But see, I don't feel like it was a fringe play, because I feel like he could be a long-term player for them. So I'll chuck him here. And Nathan Kruger, another player who no one's really heard of. I think he was the first player in the actual trade period to get traded. But Nathan Kruger, first time I'm hearing about him. Used to play at the Cats, only played a couple of games as a forward. But obviously, the Pies don't really have a lot going in the forward line. I know they've got Myercheck and I think Hoskin Elliott himself as well. But I feel like, yeah, someone like Nathan Kruger could be an important player for the Pies because, yes, I guess they have a couple of forwards, but they don't have a great forward line at all, so he could be very helpful. But I don't know, considering he's only a 2-game player, if they're going to play him that much. He'll develop, I reckon, as a good player. We'll chuck him. I'll chuck him here. And next up, we've got Pat Lipinski. Been at the Dogs for 5 or so years. He's actually, I thought he only played like 2 or 3 seasons. Apparently he's been in the list for 5 or so years. So he's been around for a while, and it makes sense why he obviously wanted to go. The Dogs have a very talented midfield. They were giving him a spot on the wing when he was getting game time, which isn't his preferred position. So I feel like, yeah, definitely Lipinski to Collingwood makes sense. And the Pies, well, their midfield, well, they're going to get rid of Pendlebury and Sidebottom eventually. So definitely Lipinski will help with their sort of fresh restart and their rebuild. The Pies midfield obviously doesn't compare to the Dogs, so we'll chuck him around the best 22. I don't think he's good enough to make an immediate impact so far, but he might prove me wrong. And the next player we do have is Peter Ladhams, who obviously was a backup ruckman, another one of the backup ruckmen who did play for the Port. Yeah, well, he's only 23, so he should be long-term. I don't think he's going to be in the fringe players. I think he'll be a handy top-up player alongside someone like a Nathan Kruger, because don't they already have Hickey, Sinclair, Naismith as a sort of a ruckman type, so I don't really know how he's going to find a spot. I don't know. Those players though that I've mentioned are starting to get old, so he's definitely a pretty good pickup for them, but I don't know. I feel like he's not yet a best 22, but I might be wrong. Next up we have is Robbie Tarrant, and I think he should definitely make their best 22 because he's been a handy player for the Roos for many years. In fact, he was probably in their top 5 best players. I don't know if he's ever won a best and fairest, but yeah, he's definitely going to be a handy inclusion. Obviously not going to be there forever, only be there for maybe a couple of 2 or 3 years, provide them with good experience and all that in the defence for the Tigers, especially after getting rid of Hawley or their retirement to Hawley and Asprey. He's definitely going to provide the Tigers with some good footy for a couple of years. And Patrizki Seaton, really interesting one. I don't think a full, healthy West Coast Eagles outfit has a Patrizki Seaton in it. I just don't see him as a player who's struggling at the Blues in a way because of his fitness. I feel like with Kelly, Shuey, Gaff, Redden, I feel like the Eagles already have a fairly solid midfield, so it's going to be a little bit hard seeing him get a spot. I'm going to chuck him in the end of handy top-up player. I've got a lot in the handy top-ups, so I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know if he makes their best 22. But someone I feel like who will make their best 22 is Tim O'Brien. Obviously he used to play for the Hawks, now playing at the Dogs. Was a sort of a utility, either a defender or forward. They could play him in either position. I feel like definitely the Dogs though, they've got enough key forwards, but I feel like if you played him in the back line, he's going to be a big impact straight away. I reckon he could arguably make an immediate impact. Arguably, like he's going to make their best 22 because we all know the Dogs, their defense is a little bit lacking. So he's going to be replacing someone like a Wood or Cordy, I would reckon, in their best 22. And the last player we've got is Will Brody. So I don't know much about Will Brody. Apparently, I thought he played a lot more games than he has, but I looked it up. Only 25 games in 5 seasons as a pick 9 for the Suns. So it really hasn't given them what they wanted, Will Brody. And obviously, the Suns gave him away for basically nothing. But I don't really think he's going to do a lot at the Dockers. Yeah, he'll probably just be some good midfield depth. I don't really know if he's going to make their best 22. He might, but we'll chuck him around this position. And you know what, fringe plays, we'll chuck in Ceglar, Max, Lynch, and Kruger, just because they're young. We want to get a few more players in other positions, even though, yeah, they're probably all going to be handy top-up players. Let me know in the comments if you agree. Let me know which trade you think is the best. I might make a winners and losers video over the next few days. Someone like a True Footy will probably do the same thing, but if you want to see that, I might do it because I haven't really gone into detail over like the picks, sort of the pick swap. Subscribe if you want to see more AFL content, a couple of trade videos here and there, and other AFL content, even over the off season. Yeah, subscribe down below, leave a like to the video, and we'll see you soon in my next one.